Power of Women podcast. Power of Women podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Power of Women podcast. I'm your host for today, Naomi Cooper Davis, and I am here with Liana and Jen, also known as Pamela Handmeyourson and Shelley Grotto. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey. Thank you.
It's so nice to have you guys. Just a bit of context for you all, dear listeners. We are in the back of the Margate Arts Club, and we have children. We're working women, mothers and women, and sometimes you can't find anyone to look after your child, and you've still got to do a podcast. So if you hear any kids in the background, that's what it is. Thank you so much for coming today, guys. I'm really excited to meet you and to speak to you, because I am a big fan of drag, but I don't know a lot about it from behind the scenes. So would you both please just introduce yourselves and just tell me a little bit about yourself to get us started?
So I'm my name's Liana, but my drag name is Pamela Handmeyourson. So Pamela kind of came to me just this year, maybe March, and I only done it 3 times, so I feel so not prepared for this. I just feel like I don't have that much experience. So for example, watching RuPaul, I've only watched the UK series, so I'm very kind of new to it, and I don't know all the names and all the people who are in drag scene in UK and around the world. Margate was a huge change, I think. When I first came here, went to the first Pride in 2016 and saw Tracy Ermine, Bob, and I saw and my kind of experience, and I think it's everyone's experience of drag being a certain kind of drag, and then seeing Tracy Ermine was a kind of a welcome. It was well, it was beautiful. Yeah. And it's different. It's arty, and it's got some kind of ideas behind it. It's not only kind of synthetic, sparkly clothes. It's very kind of, it's fashionable and has lots of concepts behind. I don't even know how to describe, but it was just wow, this is so nice. And then slowly seeing maybe Jen going into drag, and then the open call came from Round in Circles Productions for a drag internship, and that was during the 3rd lockdown, so it was all still, it had to happen through Zoom, and that's when I applied and became Pam. I kind of I have experimented with putting moustaches on for parties and a bit of chest hair and you know, the parties in Margate are, always a great way to do different things.
Exactly, try some stuff on, see how it feels.
Yeah. And this was the first time when I went fully kind of over feminine. So Pamela Handmeyourson, big boobs, which I have on now at the moment as well. I thought I need to get in character. And something that I kind of feel like I've never gone that far into kind of femininity. I don't know how to explain.
That makes total sense to me. Thank you so much. Jen, can you just give us a little intro and a little bit about how you got started?
So I'm Jen, but my alter ego is Shelley Grotto. She's a subterranean drag queen, Margate's #1 tourist attraction, resident queen at anywhere that will have her. But obviously Margate Arts Club is a great sort of place for Shelley to hang out. She can often be found there, in and out of drag. Yeah, so my first introduction to drag was sort of through Bob as well, who was first Tracy Ermine and then Janet District Council, later known as.
I've got to say,
Reborn.
I think our Margate drag queens' names are there is some really excellent punnage, some great drag names going on around here.
It's hyper-local.
It's really local. It is very specific, but yeah.
And Janet's now travelled to Dover, but has remained Janet District Council, so I think it works outside of the locality as well. But so there were drag. I didn't realise that drag was something that, as a cis woman, it was a space that I was able to sort of take up or be in, or anything that was actually available for me as a sort of self-expression until Janet ran some drag internships and sort of invited me along. So the kind of main one where that happened was something that happened at Crate Space, which is a local artist studio, where they were running a zine week, and as part of that there was a sort of immersive performance called The Complaints Desk, and Janet was looking for some drag interns to like man the complaints desk. And so Shelley was kind of born there. It was very much like in a cupboard, throw some makeup on, like just sort of make it something work. But then she sort of arrived quite fully formed. And I think having that permission to sort of enter into this art form was really revolutionary for me, and I think being in Margate and being around such a sort of supportive, collaborative, queer community just really meant that there was so many opportunities. It sort of snowballed, so there sort of became opportunities quite organically, and we formed, there was a bit of a collective at the time called the House of Xanadu. So there was, it was sort of this group of queens just making up our own sort of stuff, putting on roller discos at Dreamland, performing at Arts Club, doing karaoke nights at Tom Fun Theatre. So we just kind of, it sort of
kept expanding.
Yeah, just sort of expanded. And then the amazing thing about being a drag queen is people will be like, oh, we need a drag queen for this, can you DJ? And you'd be like, well, no, but Shelley can. Like Shelley, she's a great
Shelley
DJ.
can do anything.
She can do everything. She can host this, she can do that. So you just sort of get put in these positions where you sort of just do it. But drag gives you that kind of, it opens doorways and gives you that permission, I think, to just do anything really that you want to try.
It's amazing. I'm a little bit jealous, but also now I'm like, maybe I should just give it a go, because I'm a performer anyway, but I've always loved drag. Like for me, like as a fat teenager, like I found acceptance and love in gay clubs. So, and even as a cis-het woman, like I absolutely, like that was where I felt comfortable. That's where a lot of my friends were. But yeah, there's been part of me that's always wanted to try drag, just because I think, because like you, Pamela, I'm very comfortable not being a particularly girly, you know, I'm very comfortable in my femininity, and I don't feel like I have to wear makeup. I've never, you know, my mum's not like that, so I kind of never, like I wear makeup sometimes and I feel like it, but I've never really used that as like a form of expression, or I've never really used, up until probably quite recently, like the last 5 years, I've never really used clothes and things like that as a form of expression. So I think there was always part of me that was like, I could be whoever I want to be. Yeah. You could be as glamorous as you want, or as grotesque as you want. It's like there's some sort of beautiful fusion of gender expression and identity expression and clown. You know, like obviously it depends on, there's loads of types.
Comedy.
But
yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that Shelley plays around with a lot, because as Jen, I don't really wear makeup, and really similar. I think actually me and Pamela are quite similar in that respect, that out of drag, you know, that's not something we really like explore or kind of express ourselves through. But then I think drag allows you to tap into that other, a different side of yourself that you're not normally able to express, or perhaps just don't feel the need to express in day to day. But it kind of gives a permission to... So Shelley, I'd say her look is very... I mean, it's very latexy, very blonde, like massive makeup, and it's kind of... It's not trying to be beautiful, but it's almost like an exaggeration of like beauty or like sexuality. And as Shelley, I feel absolutely amazing in it. I feel so empowered. And... so I think I definitely would encourage you to give it a go.
So can you tell me a little bit about your backgrounds? Do you come from a performing background at all?
No. I studied art and I actually studied photography in a kind of art cluster in university, and then I used myself as a model all the time, and then kind of veered into live art, performance art, but self-taught or just kind of expressing myself. So I don't have strong performance.
You obviously do. You would never ever I would never ever. I thought you were an actor. I thought this is an actor giving it a go. Like I never would have thought that you don't have a background in performance.
Yeah, so that's my background.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I did theatre studies at A-level, and actually we wrote a play that was the sort of take on the doll's house. It was very literal because we were in a doll's house. And actually I played Barbie in that play, and I think that was really my first sort of taste of Shelley, because I had these sort of PVC white platform boots that were thigh high. It was really inappropriate actually for school.
Guys, these kids are 16.
Yeah,
what's going on?
What's going on? And like a long blonde wig, and it was just so like, oh. So yeah, but apart from that, I have I work at an art gallery, and I think I've always been interested. I always loved theatre and performing arts, but never really felt like it, it's more of an interest rather than a profession. So drag has kind of allowed me to re-engage with that side, with my 16-year-old Barbie side. and just play around and give it a go, and not be so sort of precious about it or have to be perfect. It's more just like expressing and
What do you think it is that gives you permission in drag to either be hyper feminine in a way that you can't do in your day-to-day life? Like, what is it you think that holds you back from that being you? You know, like, for you, what is the difference between those two?
Well, first of all, I think people shouldn't be defined by gender.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it should work in drag as well. This is like when you were talking about how you don't feel like you ever express yourself in that way, and you don't feel the pressure. I felt my whole life, because I'm quite like short and feminine, I always felt that I'm kind of undermined. So people look over and find me like maybe, too blonde, too short, too stupid. So I feel a pressure to be the opposite, to not to be feminine, too feminine, or wear too much makeup, so people would not overlook me. So that's also a thing, isn't it? The way we judge people. If someone wears too much makeup, they don't take you seriously. So I think experimenting with it in drag just has given me a kind of, I don't know if you can swear.
Yeah, you can swear. You can swear.
So just fuck it. Go for it. Just go for it. Do whatever you want. Go. Take all those stereotypes. I'm Eastern European, and there's so many stereotypes about that. So I'm just gonna like ride all those stereotypes and do, just like to the edge. I'm gonna be that.
Yeah.
Maybe, or whatever I want to be. So that kind of is the permission to do that.
Yeah, I think drag just plays with the notion of gender and gender binaries, and sort of allows it to, it to be a lot more fluid and play around. And that's why I think there are more women, trans people doing drag, non-binary people sort of feeling more and more empowered that this is something that's available for them as well, because it's sort of in a gender revolution at the moment where sort of
things are changing. It is an incredible time, and I think you're absolutely right, Pamela. Like I totally agree. I don't think that anyone should be defined by their gender, but we still do live in a society that does love to put everyone in a box.
And I think as women, we're often in general you're told to be a certain way, or not be too much or be too loud, or don't be too sexy or be sexy in the right type of sexy. There's all these kind of codes, and actually drag provides, like you said, it is like a big fuck it or like fuck you. And it kind of is a really empowering way to just play around with all of that and be like, no, you know what, I'm going to be as sexy as possible, and I'm going to be as outrageous as possible, and sort of tap into that side of you that is there, but in your day-to-day maybe you've been sort of told that that's not an appropriate way to behave, or society makes it difficult for you to behave in that way, but drag kind of gives you that permission, I think.
Just go for it. So what terms, I'm quite interested in this actually, because I've had the privilege of not having to have given this too much thought really, but I can imagine if you're in drag, especially when you're doing drag with loads of different queens and you're starting to do it as a profession, for you, what terms do you feel comfortable with? So we've got bio queen, AFAB, assigned female at birth, or female drag queen. Do you have a preference?
I mean, I think ultimately at some point any of that will get dropped, and it will just be that everyone's a drag queen. Yeah. And I think generally people just do call me a drag queen, but I think AFAB is probably what I'm most comfortable with and quite enjoy actually. I mean, it kind of has the word fab in it.
Yeah, fabulous.
Fab. And actually I think there's something quite special about at this point of time being a woman doing drag, in that I think it kind of gives a bit of an edge, or a kind of, I think people are more and more accepting of it, but still find it as kind of interesting. There's a woman doing drag. And I quite like getting that response from people. I think it might be a little bit in vogue to have women as drag queens, the more and more that we're sort of pushing against the fact that it's just a space for cis men. So yeah, I quite like that, I don't mind saying I'm an AFAB queen, but I think ultimately we're all just drag queens. Don't know what you think, Pam.
I like the AFAB queen, and I use that, and I think assigned female at birth is it already points that gender is something that you're assigned to, and you have to kind of conform to later in your life. So and it is something that you play with, and I think it's a really good name. Many people don't know what it is, so I have to tell them.
It's part of your civic duties. You're educating.
Yeah, I know. I was like, and when I say that I'm a drag queen, people are like, whoa. Because obviously they think, am I a man then in that case? And then I say I'm an AFAB queen, and then they're like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. I think people are kind of confused at the notion of a woman dressing up as a woman. It really puts people in a bit of a spin.
It sounds like you've both had amazing experiences with the drag scene here, and you just feel very accepted, and it's like, we're like, come on, come and join us.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I don't know if that's Margate and sort of the community that we're in, or if that's people's experiences elsewhere. I know I've heard of other AFAB queens who are saying they've had different experiences, or felt they haven't been booked for things because they're AFAB, or I don't know if pay is different, or they've been cancelled from a gig because they've been found out that they're AFAB, those kind of things. So I know that it is definitely not a level playing field, and the fact that with RuPaul it's the first
Victoria's gone.
Yeah, the first season that in however many, I don't know how many years it's been going, or 2003.
Long
Yeah, so it's a long time. and to have the first AFAB queen on the show, and for Ru to sort of then accept that is a valid that's valid for a drag queen to be female. But still that is like that's the token one.
Yeah, in this long.
And I'm sure as it progresses it will become a lot more balanced and diverse in that way.
Do you think that's also necessary for them, really? I feel like with all of the different, because I'm a big RuPaul fan, listeners. I bloody love it, and I've seen all of them, some series far too many times. But I think having seen a lot of drag growing up, like just seeing a lot of drag in England, like it's really different. It's really different wherever you go. You know, there are different, like very much there are styles that, you know, I'm sure that there are similarities in that way in America, like, you know, East Coast queens and West Coast queens going to be have their styles and things. But I wonder if, because our history of drag is like very different to, you know, to like the ball. I know we've got a ball scene now, and we've had a ball scene since the 80s, but we've had a really small thing in comparison to America. So our drag scene really started with that whole like end of the pier, Danny Kaye kind of, you know, like men doing like jokes about women. Do you think that they had to open it up in terms of the kind of range of the queens in the UK, because it just wouldn't wash just having a load of pretty people?
I mean, I think there's still a way to go with the UK drag race being representative of all the types of queens there are and styles and what's going on. I still think they do. Well, Ru's got a certain style of drag queen and kind of favours maybe a bit more of a polished queen, and
that's not British drag in general. Like it's not, and that's what I love about it. I just love the queens where you go and it's messy, and it's all it's so much more about the performance than about the veneer.
And I think that's why I'm really pleased when I started to get into drag. I wasn't really, I mean, I had watched Drag Race before, but I don't think I was so aware of sort of Instagram drag queens as I'm calling them, where they, you know, look really perfect and it's all about the illusion and like having the most expensive sort of incredible wigs and clothes. I mean, obviously that's also great, but I think I didn't really know any of that side of it, so I went in very much only having the references of kind of Margate Drag, which was a lot more DIY and like using a lot of cardboard props. And
love the cardboard
funny
props.
and art, you know, and kind of messy and just sort of that freedom of expression. And I think if I'd have sort of thought too much about it or been too aware of it, having, you know, this kind of the polish of it, I think I might have been put off of doing it or giving it a go. And so yeah, I think being in this sort of specific place and at that specific time really helped me kind of get into it and see that is as much a valid expression of drag in that this kind of unpolished, messy DIY like punk, just all about, you know, about the performance and the concepts, as much as a kind of RuPaul, very glamorous and expensive and sort of illusion drag queen.
And also the idea of like perfect female body as well, the hourglass, the breasts, the fakery. Whilst in Margate, rarely someone wears makes the
lots of bearded drag queens there and
chest hair out and flat chests and just
it made me so happy when body hair started, like it's only, I think, was it last year or the year before, but you know, RuPaul was talking to someone and saying you should be shaving and you're like, come on.
I mean,
really?
even still with the with Joe Black and the H&M dress and sort of saying you have to have I don't know, it just sort of perpetuates this idea that you have to have a certain amount of money and resource to be able to be taken seriously in drag, when actually there's so many other components. And the same with that last series of RuPaul with Ginny Lemon, where they were saying, wear breasts and pad, and actually that wasn't
That's not
necessarily their style, and it shouldn't have to be. There's so many different forms of drag, and that's what makes it really interesting, is having that variety, I'd say.
Yeah. And when Ginny Lemon tried breasts, I don't think it worked. It's just
No.
It wasn't there. It wasn't for them. So you've already said, Shelley, like it's not a level playing field for female drag queens. But how can we support the movement so that it becomes more level?
I think from a sort of on the ground level, running the way I got into it, the way Pamela got into it, is sort of running internships and opening it up and making it feel more inclusive, and sort of encouraging people who have an interest in it to give it a go and sort of explore and experiment, just to sort of generate more drag queens in general, and then sort of I don't know on a higher level than that.
Get out and go and watch some drag. Go to live shows, guys.
Exactly.
If people aren't paying to go and watch it, then it's always supply and demand, isn't it? But I think it's really important for people to just not go to a drag show just because it's people they've seen on the telly. I mean, it's like so much stuff. Just go, please, just go and try something new. It doesn't have to have a famous person in it. Go and see what's happening in your local area. Go and see what's on a Friday night, and
building up a town of drag queens. I can see that happening in Margate. just
we're walking up. Oh, everyone's
become a drag queen.
And do you think? It's important. I think it's really important as an art form to kind of respect its roots as well. So I know that there's a lot of problematic stuff. I mean, there's a problematic stuff with everything, everywhere, all the time. But for such a long time, drag and that space has been a safe haven for a lot of people to express themselves when they haven't had that elsewhere. And there are still parts of the country where you can't still do that. It's not always safe to express yourself fully exactly as you want to in the small town that you live in. How do you think that people coming in, especially cis het women who might want to try it, how do you think they can safeguard against just coming in and trying to take something over?
I mean, I think with my experience, because it was encouraged by a group of drag queens who I knew as friends, and I was sort of part of that community, it felt very sort of I felt very supported to be able to do it, and very encouraged. So I suppose, but I don't know how it would have felt if I was approaching it as someone that was just interested in doing it without having that it was a bit of a permission in a way to give it a go.
And I totally know that also you're going, but I'm a woman, so surely I should be able to dress as a woman if I want to. But I think maybe it's more about I think it's probably unlikely that you're going to get into drag unless you're unless you've got some sort of community. But I just wonder how you would, how you would go about it if you don't know any drag queens.
I think, I would say go and see drag as a first point of call. Go to venues, start, or, on Instagram, message people, follow people, find out about people, kind of just learn a bit more maybe about the mechanics, and sort of immerse yourself in that space, and then when getting into it, just to be, I think it's we both do it, and I think it's totally valid that we do drag, as long as you're respectful, I think, and you're not doing it to mock the art form, but to really celebrate it as an art form and a form of expression. And I think that shines through in your drag, and people, well, from my experience, have only been really supportive and celebratory of that.
Yeah.
And I think you'll naturally kind of, I think it's definitely around finding a kind of community of like-minded people, learning from them. I think we have so much to kind of pass down and teach each other, and people are very generous, and I think if you show an enthusiasm of wanting to get into drag or interest in it, naturally people who do drag are so enthusiastic about doing drag that they will want to they'll want to nurture that. I mean, I can only speak from my experience, but it's felt very open and welcoming.
That's amazing.
And I think that's probably you'll be able to find that. You might have to travel, but you will be able to find it if you look hard enough, I think.
What would your dream future of the drag scene look like?
A town full of queens.
Well, your factory.
Actually, you'll have like a party. Everyone comes in.
We're going back to the Industrial Revolution. It's gone too far. I think just having just everyone feeling represented kind of within drag, and being able to find where you fit in, and having that full spectrum of gender. And I think there's a place for all sorts of queens, every type of queen. And I think it would be a shame if it becomes too if drag queens kind of become a clone of each other, or a bit cookie cutter, or a bit like a RuPaul production line.
It would be really boring.
What I'm thinking is for it to be even more accepted, and people at home would not be afraid to try it out. I don't know, a dad putting some makeup on on a Thursday evening to watch RuPaul, because it's not a thing everyone like watches at home. No. It's not that accepted yet. So for everyone to be comfortable with their gender identity, and then expressing whatever they want to express, play, I don't know. For that to happen, that would be a dream future. Yeah,
I think if it's something you feel like there's something inside of you that is trying to get out, or just to experiment and play, that you wouldn't feel that there's a barrier to being able to sort of tap into another side of yourself, or a deeper side of yourself, deeper part of yourself.
What do you think, for you and for your character, what's the essence of your drag persona?
Ooh, the essence of Shelley. Sounds like a perfume.
I mean, probably seaweed, clams, and crabs.
Crabs. Plenty of crabs. The essence of... I think Shelley is super confident. She'll steal your boyfriend from under your nose. She is she's not afraid of anything or anyone, and she's really fucking sexy. She's just she is so sexy. That's, I guess that might be the essence of Shelley, but is also not afraid to make a fool of herself. She's kind of like a monster that I've created. And I was like, she's really demanding. It's sort of just having to like make sure Shelley's needs are met all the time.
The shopping.
You have to do all the shopping. The expense of Shelley.
How about you, Pamela?
So Pamela is... So she's retired lifeguard.
I saw you at Pride and I loved it so much. It was so amazing. I haven't laughed that much in a really long time.
Oh, thank you. So she's redeployed by government to work in sex education, to fix the wrongs of a bad sex education of years and years. So she's working with young men, with 20-year-old men, and she's an older woman. She's well, I'm approaching my 40s, but but she's definitely in her 40s. So she's sex positive, middle-aged woman, and I think that's something that's missing in a wider scene. I'm still working on her. She it needs to come out. I feel like I'm stifling her down, but I need to kind of yeah. So she works with young men and teaches them practical sex education. So yeah,
I mean,
everyone needs to know where clitoris is.
She's doing great work.
Oh my goodness. If you were going to start your drag factory, what's the first thing an aspiring drag queen should think about? I'm just trying to get tips for myself now.
We ran. So I kind of came through doing a drag internship with Janet District Council, and then ran a drag internship myself alongside KCC and Cara Couture, who are two other drag queens. And that's where Pamela was born, as well as Tivoli Lady Gardens, another AFAB queen.
Brilliant name.
And Giselle de Geer. We created 3 monsters that day. So proud. So we had to think quite a lot about kind of how we ran a sort of 2-day workshop on sort of tapping into your drag alter ego. And at the end of it, you sort of from start to finish kind of developed a look, a character, and performed in a music video. So it was quite an intensive 2 days done over Zoom.
That's a lot.
I think it was important for us to kind of get in. Well, we had a consultation about kind of what type of, what kind of look are you interested in? Are you blonde? Are you brunette? Like, who are your icons? Do you have any influences? Do you have an idea of who this character is that it's trying to get out? And often people do kind of have this like inclination of who they might be or as their drag. And then we sort of did the makeup, because I think it really helps like when you get into character, like through doing the makeup and spending that time. It takes like a long time to put on your face and so that really helps you start to embody and sort of become your person. And then we did stuff around like we did a sort of job interview, like why you want to become a drag queen. We did like a movement workshop where you had to kind of walk like your queen and like do catwalks and stuff and voguing. We did a bit around kind of your voice and what do you want to say as a drag queen, but also like how do you sound as a drag queen? Do you have a slightly different voice that you inhabit? So yeah, you kind of work up like the whole package, become fully formed, 3-dimensional drag queen.
Very quickly, 2 days.
Yeah.
I think so. It was very quick, and I felt like, oh, it's all happening so quickly. And then obviously I think the RuPaul the second season had just finished, and Bettany from Bambulish had just come out, and she, so Pamela Anderson was one of her icons, and she did some looks in her, and so that was kind of in my mind. But I think the main thing that kind of, if you want to kind of where to start, I think is maybe look at when you were just kind of, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, 12, pre-pubescent, and what did you have in your mind? What did you think you're gonna become? I think what reminded me of, there was a performance by Pink Suits a couple of years ago, where one of Pink Suits, Lenny, was, I think there was a song or it was a story how he wanted to be Britney Spears. I think it was Britney Spears, or one of the stars. Yeah. And I think that time, that age, when you kind of 10 to 13, like before you become grow boobs or and you at that time, what do you want to be? Maybe that's what you need to look at and think. What did you have in your mind then? And maybe that's the first thing you want to play with. So that's where Pamela came for me as well. So that was my kind of ideal of what I thought I wanted to become at that tender age, which I obviously didn't never become, never gained
until you became Pamela, and then you did.
Living out all of the childhood dreams.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea of, if you were to do drag, what you would, how you would be?
Well, I think that mine, I'm like, I was thinking about it in preparation for this, and I was thinking, actually, I think that like my idea of what I would do feels very feels like a lot like internalized misogyny to me. Because I'm like, but I think because I very rarely am hyper feminine, so I do. There is something about that, like being like Shirley Bassey +10 glamour, like really just so over the top, just like hair that barely fits through a door. Do you like?
Oh wow!
Do you know? but just Oh my god, yeah, cardboard hair. But like just absolute. I think as well, because I am big. I've spent I'm very happy with myself now, but I spent a lot of my time as a teenager and like in my early 20s kind of hiding and trying not to be my full like physical presence. So there's part of me that's like, if you just go so like, people like, people are not going to be able to get past you. Like that's fine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
I'm taking up
all of this space. Fuck you.
Time to take off. Oh yeah. Get out of my way. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
I do feel though that to realise my dream, I would have to wear heels, and I just cannot walk in them. So maybe I just get rolled around, rolled in and out of places. Yeah. Walk 3 steps and then stop.
Just wear heels, just not stilettos, just the
chunky ones.
That's how I manage, because I don't wear heels normally at all, and kind of have to dance and stuff around in them and be out on your feet all night. So just make sure you get a comfortable pair. Do you think that you would ever, I know that you're quite early on, Pamela, in your Pamela Handmeyourson journey, but do you think that you would ever, can you kind of see yourself trying a different character at any point, or do you feel quite like, no, I've really got this? I know you're different. I feel at the moment so wedded to Shelley, I can't imagine her not being there or being part of me. I feel like she just really makes sense for me, but maybe at some point I'll become bored of her, or have to break up, or I'll have to kill her off in some way. But for now, I think Shelley feels very much, me and Shelley are as one. We've taken our vows to death do us part. But you're kind of maybe more fluid in that.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, so it's very early in a journey, and I don't feel like I've done much. I've done three things I think so far.
Smashing every one of them.
But I feel like at some point, as I said, it's a kind of early childhood fantasy, maybe in a way, and then maybe at some point, maybe it's going to die off, and I'm going to try something else. But I'll see how it goes. Yeah,
I'm kind of interested in, and this is something that Bob, again, Janet, District Council, was sort of talking about, was having like 2 sides of sort of having Janet, but then also Bob was talking about being a drag king and doing playing around with that, and like and sort of this idea of taking his own hair cutting it and then like then sort of making a beard out of it, or like shaving his own beard and then re-sticking it on, things like that. Wow. So I quite like, at some point, I mean, I think I've been more drawn to being a drag queen than a drag king, because like we've been saying, sort of a drag queen actually feels more of a departure for my day-to-day, and it's like more different. I think if I was to be a drag king, that wouldn't necessarily feel too different for me, or too kind of, it just doesn't feel quite right of like what I want to play around with and explore. But I do quite like this idea of developing kind of maybe a drag king side, and having two different, like picking out different roles to play depending on kind of how I feel, or maybe to layer it up, having Shelley being a drag doing Shelley, then being Shelley as a drag king, just to kind of keep adding on layers and layers.
Amazing. Can you guys tell us, just to wrap up, thank you so much, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you guys. Thank you so much for telling me, just like giving me a little insight into your world. Can you tell us where we can see you? Have you got any gigs coming up that we can come and support?
Oh, I don't think I have anything.
We'll get you some.
Do you have those?
So I have a monthly slot at Elsewhere in Margate, doing their karaoke night. So it's the last Sunday of every month. You can find Shelley singing songs. And then I've got Halloween at Arts Club. Shelley's going to be doing a turn on the dance floor. Working with Pink Suits on Queer Country Night, which is at Elsewhere. So
amazing.
Living my true Dolly Parton fantasies. That's coming up in November. And I think there's talks of a sort of winter Margate Pride, and performing as part of that. So there's
amazing.
There's things coming up. It's exciting, but all in Margate.
Hey, for Margate now, today, tomorrow, the world.
It's the best place.
Pamela Handmeyourson, Shelley Grotto, thank you so much for joining us on the Power of Women podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for listening to us.
Yeah, thank you.
Power of Women podcast. Power of Women podcast.